Welcome. This is Jim, host of the Faith Influencer podcast, where we're going to dive into discussions on faith's role in everyday life, from navigating blended families to overcoming challenges. I'm a husband, a father, a Bible teacher, an advocate for applying faith to everyday life. So tune in as I share personal stories, valuable insights, and practical wisdom. Rebuilding trust after divorce or after betrayal. Why is it so hard to do, and how do we do it right? Welcome back. Welcome to our podcast, Faith Influencer. This is your blended family podcast, and today we're talking about one of those subjects that all of you are going to perk up, because I know from personal experience and from years of working with people in blended families that this is a struggle. It is about rebuilding trust. How do you rebuild trust after you've gone through whatever it was that you went through? Well, first of all, we're going to have to identify the problem. Then we're going to have to really talk about some practical ways to overcome it. We're going to get rid of some guilt related to it. And we're going to really identify what's going on that's so unfair in your current relationship. So all of that, here we go. So it is true that rebuilding trust is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. And one of the reasons is because the person who broke your trust isn't even the person in your life now. They're not even the person you're married to now. How true is this? You can be married to a very good person and still struggle with trust because of something someone else did to you. How unfair is that we do that we project that on someone? So I want to give us the right perspective today and help us with this. As we go through this, here's the line I want you to take away. And I'm going to say it more than once. I'm going to say it at the end as well. And it is this. When you enter into a blended family, we always talk about why is it that divorce rates are so much higher in blended families? Well, here's one of the big reasons why. With second marriages, here's one of the big reasons why. Because you bring into this marriage this whole mistrust. And someone said this, and it really clicked with me, so I want to pass it along to you. And here's what they said. I was asking someone who hadn't hurt me to pay for pain they didn't cause. I read that, and I'm like, wait. I got to hear that again. So here it is again. I was asking someone who hadn't hurt me to pay for pain that they didn't cause. I want us to reset our mindset. What's really going on when we bring mistrust into our new relationship and into our new marriage and into our blended family? So first of all, let's name the problem. You know how they say that you can't overcome something or get victory over something unless you identify what it is? Well, let's identify what it is. Let's name the problem. There's a psychological term. I remember back in the days of going through psychology that's called projection. And projection is a psychological term that means that you attribute your own thoughts, your own feelings, or even faults to someone else. So let's just name what's going on. That's what's happening. We are projecting over onto our new relationship, to our new spouse, something that came from somewhere else that they were not involved in. They're not doing anything wrong, but we're projecting that on them. You'll know what I mean when we go through this. So trust isn't about the present. Follow? Trust was shaped by wounds in the past. Trust is something, or mistrust is something you brought into this new relationship. You brought into your blended family. You brought into your new marriage. You brought mistrust with you because of a divorce you went through, because of a betrayal that you went through, because of broken promises that you experienced. And it created this mistrust. But we don't turn loose of it. It's in our mind. It plays psychological games with us. And then we get remarried and we have a blended family. And of all the struggles that come with blended family, it's very tough. But one of them that almost every new relationship experiences is this mistrust that we brought with us. Now, I don't know why we don't unpack that. I tell you all the time, before you remarry, go to counseling. Why? Because you have a backpack, and this backpack is stuffed with all these issues that we've gone through with a bad relationship, why we went through divorce in the first place, or maybe it had to do with an affair or broken promises, and we load our backpack with all of these issues, but then we don't unpack them. And somehow, do you think they've gone away because we didn't unpack them? No, they didn't go away. They're still there. And how unfair is it that you remarry and you have a new partner and this new husband or this new wife, and they have to experience all of this when they're not even involved because you refuse to unpack it. So we're identifying what's really going on. I want you to get the right perspective. I don't want you to believe the lie. Literally, I was talking to someone last week. I was so appreciative of something that she said to me, but after, I'm going to say, a few years of off and on counseling, this is what she said to me. She said, I believe the lie all of this time that there was something wrong with my new marriage because of something that happened in my previous marriage. And I said, you know what? You really identified something that I wish more people could wrap their heads around. And it's this, is that you think that your new marriage is faulty because you have these feelings of mistrust. You think there's something wrong with your new relationship. There's nothing wrong with your new marriage. It was the old marriage. There's not reasons to mistrust your new partner. It was the old partner. There's not reason to throw out your new marriage, and the divorce rate is so high in blended families. There's no reason to throw out your new marriage because you're feeling these old feelings. Identify that that's something you brought with you. It's not the fault or the issue of your current marriage. Your current marriage is okay. It's good. Grow, but get rid of those things that you brought with you. So you could be married to a good person and struggle with mistrust. If you think about it, you have to say, you know what? I'm being so unfair to my partner, to my husband, to my wife, because they're a good person. They don't deserve my mistrust. You could be married to a good person and pushing them away because of something from your past. So it's an internal struggle. You want to trust. You don't want to punish your new spouse with your craziness that you brought with you. This fear keeps showing up, and you know it's there, and you can love your new partner. You can love your husband or your wife, and yet for some reason you feel like a spy because you don't trust them. So you're watching everything they do out of a mistrust camera. So that's the internal problem. How does this affect your marriage? How does this affect your blended family? Here's what we do. Raise your hand if you've done this. Over questioning your spouse. Where have you been? I thought you were going here. I tracked you to here. What's going on? Some of you get crazier in this, and I've dealt with the crazies. Some of you will put a tracker on your spouse's car, and you don't tell them to see where they're going. You say, well, what's wrong with that? Do I really have to answer that question? What's wrong with that? What are you saying to your new spouse? You're saying, I don't trust you. On what grounds? On the grounds of someone else's hurt, on the grounds of something that happened in your prior relationship, and you've brought it into this relationship. Do you see what you're doing? How you're being crazy with this stuff? And then here's what people do. Because they mistrust, and then you project that onto your new spouse, you start pulling back emotionally for some reason in your head, you start thinking there's reasons to mistrust them when they're not. So you start pulling back emotionally. That's how it affects your relationship. Or you start protecting yourself. So you say, well, I was hurt in my previous marriage. And so in this marriage, you put walls up and you don't connect. Because why? Because your new spouse has done something to deserve no, because your previous spouse deserved it. But you're putting it on your new spouse. So when the trust is low, control goes up. And now you start controlling the situations because you're trying to manage your mistrust. So let's rebuild. Let's turn this around. Even sitting here talking about this for 5 minutes is about to drive me crazy. Let's turn this around and rebuild it. How do we rebuild this trust? I want to talk to you about how to rebuild it real quick, and then I want to tell you a personal story. Well, one, honesty. It's not perfection that you're after. You're not going to have perfection, but it's honesty. It's honesty where you talk to your new spouse and say, let me tell you what I'm struggling with. I'm not trusting you, and you don't deserve that. I don't trust my previous spouse, and for some crazy reason, I'm putting that on you. So be honest about it. That's a first step. I really think that if people were more honest about it and got it out in the open, your spouse now would understand that kind of honesty. I can work with that. It at least helps me understand what's going on with you. Consistency over time, that's going to help rebuild this. Vulnerability, where you are willing to risk again and not drive your spouse crazy because of mistrust. Trust them. Be willing to risk again. And then patience from both people. You have to be patient with yourself because there were those hurts and those wounds that obviously haven't totally healed. And your new spouse has to be patient because you're going through this. Now, my preference is that you, for the most part, deal with this before you get married, but most people don't. So here we are now. Let's not throw it away, though, because of something someone else did. So trust isn't rebuilt through promises. Trust is rebuilt through patterns. Does that make sense? It's not rebuilt through promises. It's not you promising this and promising that. It's just built through consistency. It's just rebuilt through creating patterns. I like what Proverbs 4:23 says. Some people use this verse as an excuse, but listen to what it says. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. So now some people say, okay, well then it's okay. He says guard your heart. It means I can put walls up. No, it's not saying close your heart. He said guard your heart. Guarding your heart doesn't mean you're shutting down. Guarding your heart means you're stewarding it wisely. And to steward your heart wisely means that things that aren't good and dumb and crazy, you're not allowing those things to plant themselves in your heart. So guard your heart from those past hurts that are affecting your present relationship. Follow? 1 Corinthians 13:7 says this. How hard is this? 1 Corinthians 13:7 says, love always trusts. That's a tough one. But get out of the crazy cycle and get into a spiritual cycle with your new spouse, with your current spouse. Maybe it's not even new. Maybe you've been remarried for a while and it's been going on all of this time. And maybe now you're like, you know what? We're gonna end up divorced, and I'm gonna go through it again unless I do so. So stand on some of the promises of the word. The love, true love, always trust you. Love your spouse. Okay, quit projecting on them your previous spouse and start trusting them. How do you start trusting them? Well, that doesn't mean that love is naive. It means that love is willing to risk again. You're willing to turn loose of the control because you trust them. So here's a practical shift I want you to make. I want you to quit making your spouse pay because I'm asking you, I'm wanting health for your blended family. Remember the foundation of the blended family? It's the marriage. That's the first thing. I want your blended family to be healthy. So I want you to quit making your current spouse pay for something your previous spouse did. And by the way, I want to throw one other thing in here. It may not be something your previous spouse did, it may be something you did previously. It may not be a previous spouse. Sometimes people struggle with mistrust because you were not trustworthy and you brought that in. It's called judging. You know, I want to give you an example of what judging is. How do you know that you're doing this? Let's say I'm driving down the road and there's a lady hurt on the side of the road, and I stop and she needs immediate attention. So I open the door and I get her into the front seat and shut the door, and I run around, and now I'm off to take her to the hospital. And as I'm driving down the road, someone passes me on the other side, and they know me, and they see a different lady in the front seat of my car. And what are they thinking? Oh, I know what Jim's doing. Jim is with another woman. Do you know why they would say that? Because if they were in that situation, that's what they would be doing. That's what judging is. Sometimes that's what you're doing in this relationship. You were the one who was not trustworthy. You were the one who had the affair. You were the one in the past. And now you get a second chance and you're projecting on your new spouse what you would have done. So maybe the mistrust doesn't come from the fact that you were hurt from someone else. You were the one who violated someone else's trust. So don't project that on someone as well. So build trust. You build it slowly. You build it intentionally. Your current relationship should not have to compete with the past. If I could just get that into our heads, your current relationship doesn't have to compete with the past. So I know what it's like to carry history into something new. All of us do who've been through this. I promise you, all of us who've been through this know what that's like to carry a previous history into something new. But if you don't rebuild trust, take me serious. If you don't rebuild trust, you don't just protect yourself, but you limit what you could have. You limit what your new relationship, what your blended family could be. You are really throwing walls up and missing out on so much that God wants for your blended family because of these walls of mistrust. So, rebuilding trust isn't about pretending the past didn't happen. You don't hear me saying that. It's about refusing to let that past control your future. I just want you to put your foot down and make that determination. I'm not letting my past control my future. God still will bless me and wants to bless me. But the enemy wants me confused by things that happened before. So put your foot down. So after walking through a divorce, this is me personally, I didn't realize how much of that experience that I carried into my new relationship. I didn't realize it. Even when I was having some of these crazy thoughts of mistrust, at first I didn't identify what was going on. Nothing was actually wrong. That's the frustrating part now when I look back. Nothing was actually wrong. There was no betrayal happening in my new marriage. Not at all. There was no dishonesty happening in my new marriage. Not at all. But there was something still going on in me, and I was guarded. I didn't know it at the time, but I was so guarded because of something previous. So I would catch myself doing this. I would I would catch myself questioning things that didn't need to be questioned. I would catch myself reading into things that weren't really there. I know you know what I'm talking about. As a matter of fact, some of you write in the comments that you know what I'm talking about. Tell me your experience because I know that you do. So it what I was experiencing wasn't because there was something actually happening. it was because of something that actually happened before. And here I am still hanging on to that. So here's the realization I had to face. I had to face that it, and it wasn't easy to admit, but I had to face that I was sabotaging my new relationship. I was sabotaging. I'm so grateful that the Lord woke me up because not only was I sabotaging my new relationship, I was sabotaging something that was good. There wasn't anything wrong with it. It was really good. And now it's really good because I woke up. So I was asking someone who hadn't hurt me to pay for a pain they didn't cause. I told you I was going to say it again. Let me wrap it up. And that's what rebuilding trust really is. It's not pretending it didn't happen, it's choosing not to let it control what happens next. One more time. Don't ask someone who hasn't hurt you to pay for a pain they didn't cause. Let's begin the steps back to learning to rebuild our trust. And I hope that through this podcast today, we just shook you a little bit to help you get the right perspective on what you're really doing by allowing your past hurt to affect your current relationship. Thank you for joining. I'm looking forward to your comments as always. We're your Blended Family podcast, and I'm excited for you to hear what's coming in the future because we're writing the playbook on all things blended family. So keep watching for that. It's coming soon. This is Faith Influencer. See you next time.